This is a story from New York, not the New York of Manhattan, the skyscrapers and Broadway, but from perhaps the toughest square mile in the city, in the South Bronx. It's a story from what they call the Big House, the busiest firehouse in New York, America, and therefore perhaps the world. It's a story about danger and about frustration, a story of a remarkable group of men who belong to engine number 82, ladder number 31, and battalion 27 of the New York Fire Department. Sometimes parts of New York look more like a B-feature film set than somewhere for people to live, like the South Bronx, a backdrop to incessant drama for the firemen of Ladder 31 and Engine 82. The fire statistics for New York are staggering. New York has more fires than Chicago, Detroit, Los Angeles and Philadelphia put together. The New York Fire Department responds to nearly 250,000 calls a year, 3 times as many as the London Fire Brigade. And the busiest district is the South Bronx, where last year the men from Battalion 27 responded to more than 10,000 calls. On average, that's one every 45 minutes, night and day, every day of the year. Few would challenge their claim to be the busiest fire station in the world. Most of the fires they fight are in abandoned buildings. Many of them are started deliberately. All are dangerous.
Okay, Karen, let's go. Oh, shit. There you go. Hey, want to throw that stuff out the window? Okay, want to move back? Let's open up over here.
What the hell are they? They just pulled the goddamn thing down on top of them. Number 2, I talked to an officer here about controlling the kids on the apparatus, and he tells me it's a fireman's job. Now, when you're taking up, will you stop back at the, what is it, the 4-2 precinct there and get that thing straightened out?
Battalion 27's second call in 15 minutes to this building, the first to put out a smouldering mattress.
The mattress fire whetted somebody's appetite for more fire, and 15 minutes later we were back here and the building was just almost completely involved in fire.
Anybody hurt at all or injured at all?
Yeah, I think 5 men in Engine 82 are going to go to the hospital just to get a check, you know. But it's kind of exhausting when you do 2 floors of fire like that, and you're working at peak capacity, physical capacity. And it's completely exhausting. You should get checked if you have no more energy. So now, if you look around, you see all the men are just about depleted of whatever energy they had.
And this was just for a fire which presumably started deliberately, was it?
Oh yeah, obviously it was an arson, a case of arson.
Right, sakes, this is ridiculous. You're supposed to be working, but Jesus Christ, this looks like this is a hell of a. If we've gotten anything across to them about safety, this isn't it.
Okay, all right.
Christ, I mean, this isn't right time. 2 guys swept up a goddamn ladder.
All right.
A routine fire in an abandoned tenement with no immediate danger to life or even property. Yet as a result of it, for the next hour and a half, the South Bronx was without effective cover. More than half the men of Engine 82 and Ladder 31 were sent to hospital for checkups, including fireman Dennis Smith.
The captain and Vinny and I just came back from the hospital. we're okay. They kept Benny Cassidy there and Jimmy Stark for x-rays. They had, you know, kind of a inflammation of the chest or something. But we went to the hospital mostly because when you go into heat and smoke like that, it does things to you, to my eyes and to lots of people's eyes. And it inflames them to such that when you even blink, you know, it hurts. So you go to the hospital and they put a needle in the side and drain the whole thing out and put some saline solution.
But is there a safe way of fighting a fire like that as compared to fighting a fire when there is a hazard to life?
No, I mean, technology hasn't shown us a safer way of fighting a fire except getting closer to it and putting water on it.
The busiest time for fires is between 3 in the afternoon and midnight, between the time the children here come out of school and go to bed. On an average night, there may be several fires like this in abandoned or deserted buildings. All take their toll of manpower, and on this night, by 10 o'clock, only one of the original crew of 6 on Engine 82 was still fit to work.
I'm an MPO, which means I'm a motor pump operator, and I had to deliver water to the fire. So I'm not permitted to go into the fire building in the event of a fire. My station is to stay with the engine and make sure that they have the water, proper water.
So it could be said it was your lucky night.
Well, I like to go into the fires. That's my job, and that's what I do the best, put out fires.
Just the front has it and drops down.
Whoever has it, when we end up on...
40 miles away from the Bronx in upstate New York, another world, the gentler, friendlier world of suburban America. Dennis Smith is a fireman extraordinary. He wrote a best-selling book called, simply, Report from Engine Company 82. Dennis sold the film rights for more than $100,000, even by American standards, a lot of money.
Too far. Come on, Daddy.
Dennis and his family, if not rich, wouldn't starve if he stopped risking his life fighting fires, but he hasn't stopped, has hardly even considered the possibility of stopping.
Well, because I have a commitment to them both, to the institution called fire department, and to firemen, and to being a fireman. And in this country, I think it's quite a respectable profession. It's certainly an interesting one. I mean, and for any kind of creative thinker, there's a wide range of possibilities, future growth, you know, as a professional.
But what are the satisfactions you get out of being a fireman?
Oh, they're all at the highest level of abstraction. You know, they've got to do with some kind of a self-gratification, I guess, a tremendous sense of achievement, and a kind of an honor about the whole thing.
I have heard it compared to bullfighting.
Yeah, I guess because bullfighting, after all, comes from a Spanish tradition. And within the Spanish tradition is this, you know, the whole concept of machismo and the need to prove virility, and perhaps in that sense, you know, firefighters also are fulfilling a need, because the work, as I reflect on it as a journalist now, not as a fireman, I mean, the concept of running into a building everybody else has run out of is insane. And you know, for X number of dollars, for a lower middle class income, to do this kind of work and to brutalize bodies the way we necessarily do in the course of our work is also insane. But yet there's, you know, and it goes back to the courage thing. And Joseph Conrad wrote books about it, you know, this need to prove to prove that you can do it. And I guess that operates too among firemen.
Have you ever wished that Dennis would give it up? Give up firefighting?
I began to wonder if, is it worth it that you would be laid up like that just from wrenching your back, picking up a piece of hose, and it does get, gets depressing, but he's happy doing it. I mean, I have to resign myself to that. That's the whole thing of it. I can't make myself miserable about it. I would rather him work in the school, in town, and he's qualified to do that now, or to sit home and write books, and be comfortable. But that would be ideal for me, but it wouldn't be ideal for him.
So Dennis Smith devotes his life to this district of New York, the richest city in the richest country in the world. The South Bronx used to be a respectable Jewish neighborhood. Then it was respectable Irish. Now it's a ghetto fast becoming derelict. It hasn't been bombed, it's been devastated by neglect and the people who live here, mostly immigrants from the deep south or Puerto Rico. There are few parks, no playing fields or even play streets, so they improvise their own amusements, sometimes to the firemen lethal.
What they'll do is they'll cut a hole in the floor, say right by the entrance to the apartment. They'll cut a hole in the floor and they'll cover it over with like a piece of cardboard or something like that. So when the fireman does go in and he's crawling in, he'll crawl, and he'll go right through the hole. And what they'll do also is, a new one what they were doing was they get piano wire and they were stringing it right across the entrance to a doorway, about neck high. So when the fireman's crawling into the place, he'll crawl in and they'll cut his throat with the piano wire.
Another one they were doing was with bags of gasoline.
Balloons full
of gasoline. They'd have them hanging up, and as the fire would burn, they'd open up the gasoline. As you're going in, the gasoline would open up, and it would light up right in front of you, sometimes right on top of you.
Another unbelievable thing that they have here is like when there is a fire in an occupied building, there'll be one floor that the apartment that is burning, and the floor below it or the floor above it, they'll be taking stuff out. They'll be, looting places, which is really unbelievable. And like we have no way of knowing who's the occupant, if it's their property that they're taking down or what, So you let them go by, and then like 10 minutes later, somebody comes up and says, my apartment was robbed. And you say, well, listen, lady, there isn't much we could do about it. We've seen people coming out with televisions, but we don't know if they own them, and everybody, and even the people themselves have, they've armed themselves with sticks and stuff and gone after these people, that they know that they're looting and stuff like this here, which is really unbelievable. It sounds like they're setting an apartment on fire just for the purpose of looting and robbing.
The people of the South Bronx are mostly transient. Few have jobs, most exist on welfare payments from a city hall which often seems more interested in keeping the people quiet than providing work. The poverty isn't material. No one starves, they dress well, own television sets, refrigerators, often even cars. It's spiritual, the poverty of hope breeding apathy and violence. Beneath the apparently placid surface, the South Bronx is an urban jungle.
Well, there's no way out for the people in the South Bronx. I mean, I see that. They're transient people. They go from one block to another block to another block until they have a fire, until they're burglarized, until they can't meet the rent. And, but it stays in that one, about a 2-mile diameter. And there's no way out for them. And that's the tragedy of it. You have to be concerned. And all of this stuff, of course, is manifested for us in terms of fire, in terms of false alarms, in terms of fires in abandoned buildings, in terms of real fires and what I call real fires, serious fires in occupied buildings where people die very easily and very quickly. For the firemen in Engine 82 and Ladder 31, I mean, there's no chance of reducing the kind of work that we're doing, or reducing the response that we're making to false alarms and to fires, unless we do something about the conditions of the Bronx. So, you know, I'm looking at it from one hand as a human being, on the other hand as a fireman, and I think we have an obligation with both hands to try to do something about it.
Eddie Montague is one of the few firemen to live in the Bronx to understand perhaps just how difficult escape is, even for the children.
Show them how you play basketball. Show them how you play basketball. Show them how you play basketball. Come on. See that? See him dribble. Let's see you make a hook shot. Let's see you shoot the basketball. Come on. Shoot the basketball. See that? I know. He's something too, huh? He is something.
Mostly, the firemen of Battalion 27 are resented. Even though he's black, lives here and risks his life for their lives and property, Eddie Montague finds he too is resented.
Well, it's in this particular area, it seems to be a resentment towards the uniform. The uniform seems to represent the establishment to some people, but then again, you can't say to all people, but it is here and it is prevalent, where the uniform does turn a lot of people off.
Do you find, in fact, that being black in a largely black and Puerto Rican neighborhood is a positive advantage ever?
Well, in certain situations, it's an advantage. In certain situations, it's a disadvantage, because as we were just saying, you represent part of the, some people feel that you represent part of the establishment, and consequently some people feel that you're not on their side because you're wearing a uniform, when actually we're civil service, and we're out to do a service for the public, which is all the people of the city of New York.
2896 Westchester and Manor Avenue. First arm units acknowledge and respond.
31-10-4.
Get out, 82, truck on the street. Get out. Everybody go. Get out.
The firemen always hope that every call will be what they call the big one, a fire where there'll be leaping flames, screaming people to be rescued, chances to demonstrate their expertise. The men may hope for the big fire, but usually it's trivial, a food on the stove fire, or a small fire started deliberately.
Did somebody start the fire, do you know?
We did.
Yeah? You see in your family?
Yeah, it's my child.
Okay.
Oh, did you? You better tell me the truth. Did you start that fire down? You did. What? Why you do?
The place was like this, so these other rooms,
yeah, that's when we in that up.
All right, so that's it.
Okay.
You come here.
I'm sorry, y'all have to go through that trouble. Where's the dog?
He ran out of the house.
The door was open when we got up there.
11:30, and for Ladder 31, the 14th response since the shift began at 6. And this time, it is a major fire, in a market complex only a few hundred yards from the firehouse. This was a serious enough fire for units from all over the Bronx to be called in. There were 39 appliances at this fire, including specialist units, a communication control vehicle and a fire department ambulance. Nearly a third of the 150 firemen needed treatment. Many were on sick leave for several days, although there were no serious injuries. Casualties in the fire department are high. Last year, 3 times as many firemen as policemen were killed on duty in New York.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming?
The annual presentation of awards and medals for gallantry to the men of the New York Fire Department. For the men of Battalion 27 from the Big House, as they call their station, a very special day because they've won 2 medals, presented by the Mayor of New York, John Lindsay.
It is because we as a people value human life that firefighters go willingly into burning buildings, defying every powerful basic instinct for personal safety and survival. Not everyone in our society can share the burden, the commitment, the brotherhood, and the satisfactions of firefighting, or have the special grief and honor which comes to the family of those who have made the ultimate sacrifice. But everyone can take pride and hope in the examples of courage, compassion, and commitment which we honor and celebrate today.
The Nair Torment Society Franklin Delano Roosevelt Medal, donated by the Nair Torment Society, is awarded to Fireman Charles P. McCarthy.
Well done. Thanks. Proud of you. Nicely done. Congratulations. Congratulations, fellas. Congratulations, fellas. Come on in here. Give your buddies a big wave up.
Charlie McCarthy of Ladder 31 won his medal for saving life.
You got your team here with you. Yeah. You got the whole gang, haven't you? Yes, the entire house.
Dan Gainey, too, was awarded a medal for saving life. Perhaps the drama and risk so dryly described in the official citation can only be fully appreciated by other firemen.
Dan, what exactly did you do to win this medal?
Well, it was out on building inspection one day, and I spotted smoke and flame pouring out of a window in a tenement. And I ran up there and I pulled the box, and
the fire alarm box.
Yeah, the fire alarm box, yeah. And a few of the neighbors said there were kids trapped above the fire floor. So I went up, I passed the fire, and I saw there was smoke and flame blowing out into the public hall. So I reached in and I slammed the door closed, right? And I went upstairs, and of course, a woman and child unconscious on the floor above. I dragged them downstairs, put them below the fire, right? And then they were screaming. There was a woman trapped in the apartment directly above the fire. So I went up there, and I could hear her screaming. And I forced the door open, and I went in and dragged her out, and dragged her downstairs, and she was extremely heavy too. So that's it. That's the entire rescue.
You make it all sound very cool.
Yeah,
very much part of a day's work.
That's it. And then the fire companies came, and they put the fire out, and that was it.
Did you have any safety gear with you?
None. No work whatsoever.
It must have been quite a decision to make there, to go into a burning building on your own.
No, you don't think about it. It's done strictly on impulse. You know, you see a fire, you just go. And there's no thought about yourself and nothing. You know, they were screaming that there's people trapped upstairs and everything. And you just go. That's it.
You may just go. I don't think most people would.
Well, that's what you're getting paid for, right?
Okay, now.